right, welcome to another episode of the Auto Repair Marketing Podcast with Brian and Kim Walker. Kim, when is the best time to plan your marketing?
All the time. You're always planning.
So always be planning. All right, well first, thank you to our friends at RepairPal for this episode. RepairPal will introduce your shop to new customers through RepairPal.com, the largest site for auto repair. Learn more at RepairPal.com/shops.
All right, so I'm going to start here.
Okay.
So here's the thing. I remember when we had our shop, and I used to be really bad at saying no. So we'd get these people that would come in selling the next cool, best marketing thing, whether it was an ad in this thing or, this new way to reach customers or whatever it might be. And we would very often just buy into it. Okay, yeah. Sometimes we'd say no, but most of the time we'd just buy into it. And it wasn't part of an actual plan.
Y'all, one time, I'm ashamed. I'm almost ashamed to admit this. I don't even
Was
know if
this
I
you
want
or
to say
me?
it. It was me. It was me. One time, I bought an advertisement on the back of the receipts at the Kroger that was across the street from
Oh,
us.
I remember that. You know that's still a thing.
They're never going to want to listen to us again.
That's still a thing.
Oh,
Well,
I know it's still a thing.
you
The
say
yellow
that-
pages are still a thing, but they're useless.
well, you say that. I don't remember which conference I was at, and there was a shop owner who said that they were tracking that they were getting. So maybe it depends on where you are. But the point
We got a couple of them back.
is that with a plan, you're now positioned to say no. You now can say, you know what? I created my plan. So speaking of when should you do it, I mean, there's really multiple answers to this. You can say, hey, I already created my marketing plan for this, whatever, this quarter, this month, and it's not in my budget right now. And so here we are approaching the end of the year. By the time this podcast comes out, we're going to be definitely getting close to the end of the year. So I for sure want to start off with saying that you need to plan at least once a year, but then you're going to break it down. You're gonna what is it? You always laugh because I screw things up. How do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a
One
time.
bite at a time. So we're going to do some backwards engineering, right? You're going to kind of first look at your numbers. What was your, work with your coach. There's so many different numbers that you're going to be tracking. So what was your revenue? How many cars were you averaging each week? What was your ARO? All the different things. And even work with your CPA and make some projections for what you want to achieve for the next year, but then break it down on a quarterly basis, break it down on a monthly basis, and be willing to make some adjustments as needed.
Yeah, and by the time that this episode is live, you will be able to find a post on our website if you go to shopmarketingpros.com/blog. That will be all about creating your marketing plan. And
right.
I go into detail about this. It's a pretty good read. Like it's a long read, but I do go into detail on this topic, and it's going to be, if you're interested in what it is that we're talking about right now, which you should be, then it's worth the read.
You've heard the quote before that failing to plan is planning to fail. And it's absolutely true. And the other thing that we often always say, and we actually just told our son this, right, who's up at West Point, and you're wearing your West Point shirt. Hoo-ah!
Go Army.
Beat Navy. We're such... Peyton would lose his mind if I'm intentionally going to send this podcast to him so that he can say, cringe,
No,
Mom.
they're going to make a reel out of it, and they're going to tag him in it.
This is so great. I think we should do it again. Okay. Anyway, we were just talking to him, and he didn't fail. because he's a bit neurotic and OCD and super controlling about everything being so great. But we had a conversation about failing forward, right? And so if you failed to plan for your marketing this past year, then what are you going to do about it? What are you learning from that? It's time to fail forward and do something different.
I'll tell you a little story, actually a couple of stories from back when we had our shop. So our shop was just outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. It is in Apex, North Carolina. And we were not far at all from the state fair. And the first year that we were over there, man, the couple of weeks because it's a big state fair that they have there. For those couple of weeks while that fair was going on, man, our business dropped to like nothing. Well, guess what happened the next year? The same exact thing, because we didn't plan.
Well, we also hadn't connected the dots yet either.
Well, yeah, but okay, another example of that, and we did this multiple years in a row, and this was before we started taking our marketing seriously, is we wanted to send Christmas cards to our clients. Well, guess what? It was too late to get them to them. Mm-hmm. So I think we ended up sending them a Happy New Year's card, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember. But we did the same darn thing the next year. Mm-hmm. And it's because we didn't plan. Now, what did we do the next year? Well, we liked the idea of standing apart from the Christmas card, so we planned and we sent a Thanksgiving card.
Yeah, thankful, grateful for you as our customer.
And we beat all of those other Christmas cards that hit the mailbox.
And it stood out from all the Christmas ones, and we got more compliments on that than we did any of the other ones.
But we only were able to do that because we planned for it.
Right. And, to kind of back up a little bit, what are you going to plan? So as I said, first, you're going to look at your numbers. All right, you really can't put a good plan in place if you don't know where you're going. And so look at what your numbers were for this year and make a projection for what it is that you want for next year. From there, think about some themes that you can implement. We just published an episode from a few weeks ago that ironically we're just recorded, and we're doing all these kind of at the same time, but trying to get ahead, planning. We sat down even for our podcast. We looked ahead at like, okay, what do these topics need to be about so that it makes sense, even when people are listening to it as an evergreen sort of content. But look at the themes that you can implement into your marketing, which that might be more so for like blogs.
Hey, you skipped what you were trying to say.
I'm coming.
We did one on the theme of car care.
Yeah. So
you got ahead of yourself.
I'm all over the place.
So we did a blog episode.
A podcast.
I'm all over the place too. We did a podcast episode on how to market around the car care months.
Yep. Right.
Okay. Sorry.
And so that's a theme, right? So you might be looking ahead and that April is spring car care month. That June, July, people are going to be traveling. So you want to do some summer stuff. Back to school could be a theme. Fall car care month. October.
North Carolina State Fair.
Right. No, so
only if you're in North Carolina.
Know your own trends though, right? Look at the data that you have so that hey, we tend to be slow. What drives me crazy when shops are like, oh, that's no big deal. We're always slow during this time. No, what? You plan for that, work around that, be prepared, be smart, be creative, come up with something and work with that slow time to increase and have a plan for slow days and all that stuff. But, October is not only Fall Car Care Month, but it's also a great month to get involved with Breaks for Breasts. And there's so many other organizations. So look ahead, pull out the calendar, plan out what those months look like, look at your quarters, and then do what I call, and not what I call, I did not engineer this, but backwards engineering, right? So break it apart, think about, okay, well, I need to write a blog about this during this time, and I need to do an event in this month, and we're going to run ads about this during this month. So it kind of really sets you up for success for the coming year. And don't think that you have to do this yourself. get your team involved because they may have ideas as well. And then Brian, do you want to how could they? I put this in our list of notes, but you're like the SEO guy. Like, can you plan out SEO topics way in advance?
Well, yeah. I mean, you kind of have to because for one, we have a content calendar, but a lot of the topics that we are writing on are things that are time sensitive. So if we know that. Well, okay, so we're in Louisiana. Y'all, it's hot here. Like, it gets hot. And if we know that in June, people start having battery failures in their car because the heat is hitting 104, 105 degree temperatures. Well, we don't want to wait until the first client comes in with a battery that, just cooked from the heat. And we're like, oh, we need to have a blog post about this so that when we send out our email newsletter this month, we have content. No, we need to be thinking about that like in March, that, hey, it's about to get hot. What are the things that start happening to cars when it gets hot? And then we put that content into a content calendar. We write the content. Our email is based off of that. A lot of the social media posts are based off of that. And that's just one example, from an SEO standpoint, but SEO is just one piece of marketing, so, there may be, if you are a shop owner that is willing to run specials and not advocating for, doing that, not saying you shouldn't either, but, then you want to have a special around that. And you probably want to have some time to talk to your battery vendor to find out, hey, I want to run a special around this. Can you help me out? During that time with a special promotion on batteries. There's so much to think about, but any time that you wait until the last minute to do it, or you wait until something is happening that jogs your memory, it's too late. You can't do anything about it then. It's going to be rushed. It's just, yeah.
Yep. So another thing to plan for is the events that we've talked about. So if you, and we know our friends, I just talked about this in another episode, Mavert, right? Every summer, they do a summer vacation customer appreciation event. And then there's, you could do a back to school event. You can do a road check, getting ready for holiday road trips, your car care clinics.
Back to school, that's one, especially when you start thinking about college students. You got some parents, little girl, it's not such a little girl anymore, that's going off to college. Well, if they're out of state, guess what? Mom and dad want to make darn sure that her car is going to be in good condition.
Well, even the young men. I mean, when our son started driving, you went through a whole checklist with Peyton about checking this. Peyton can change his own oil. There's things that all of them need. And
I did, but it's different with the little girl.
It is. I mean, I get that.
Yeah.
I just don't want to say, it's just like we talk about the Girl Scout clinics that you can do. Well, the Boy Scouts, you can do them as well. And
you had that backwards, but yes.
What did I say? Anyway.
We usually talk about the Cub Scouts, the Boy Scout merit badges, because most shops think, well, I'm going to do something for the Boy Scouts. But you can also, the Girl Scouts have a car care merit badge also.
I'm laughing because I think you just did the exact same thing, but whatever. Carm can have fun with that. It just is what it is. So, come up with your plan for the whole year, but then have a plan for quarterly, for monthly. And, it sounds like a lot. You may need to block out some time on your calendar and maybe get out of the shop. Maybe go home and sit at your kitchen table. Maybe go to a coffee shop. Be somewhere where you can really zone out. And even if you, I hesitate to use done is better than perfect in this example because I think you really need to just get it all put together. But what I'm saying is if you start with just sketching it out, then that's better than nothing because you at least have something down. But If you have 30 minutes, take the 30 minutes and start there, but just don't leave it incomplete. Take some time. We're going on a Disney cruise between Christmas and New Year's that we're calling our planning retreat. Will probably take a little bit of time. We always talk about business.
We do.
We'll take some time to sketch some things out. We did an episode recently on EOS. Well, we're not only doing our 1 year and laying out our core focus with our marketing, but we're looking at our 3 year and working on even what our 10-year goal is, but all that stuff drives our marketing efforts. We're listing out which conferences are we going to, where are we going to be teaching, what our podcast episodes are going to be about. He talked about our content calendar. We've got it all in this big spreadsheet. And
I'm gonna finish Kim's thought for her though on where she started talking about the Disney cruise. Talk to your CPA about this because the IRS does allow for a planning vacation every year. That is a legitimate business expense. So, if you're going to be doing like a big, you got to keep up with this stuff every month. But there's probably once a year where you're going to sit down and you're going to do a big planning session for your marketing. And guess what? You don't have to be sitting at a desk in the shop to do that. You could be sitting in an overwater bungalow in Bora Bora. No, that might be.
I heard what you said.
That might be getting a little excessive there.
But
I
heard
you
it.
could also be sitting at the beach or in a cabin in the mountains or whatever, and that is a legitimate business expense where you get to do your planning retreat and you get to mix some pleasure in with the pain of sitting down and creating the marketing plan.
So you've got this planned out, right? It is not concrete.
No.
It's a fluid document because there are times when you need to pivot. One of the things that should be in your plan is a slow day plan. Like you need to think about when are the moments that I need to do something different. Nobody knew about COVID. Nobody knew about this pandemic. And, one person reached out to me and said, Kim, how do I market my shop in this crisis? I don't know what to do. Well, I was like, let me just answer that for you in a blog. And I wrote a blog. Well, I ended up teaching that. I wrote a blog and converted it to a class and I ended up teaching it. I think like 6 times in 2 weeks. And probably by the time those 6 sessions were done, I had been in front of thousands of people. That was not part of our marketing plan. We didn't know that there was such a thing as COVID or a pandemic coming, but we were able to pivot and adjust what we were doing in that moment. It changed everything, right? It changed everything.
It could be anything as crazy as a big pothole that happens to open up on a main highway in your town, and all of a sudden you have an opportunity to start marketing alignments.
Yes. You have to be able to, I'm sorry, I'm from that generation and I watched every episode of Friends, but you have to be able to pivot. And so, being aware and not, it's so that you're not having to panic and everything's frantic chaos because something's going wrong or, something happens in the world or in your, road construction. You just never know what's coming at you. So if you start creating some what if scenarios, include that in your marketing plan, but be willing to make some changes throughout the year as you need to. So be prepared to do that. And then finally, you need to know if it's working. So wrap it up by talking to people, Brian, about how do you know if it's working, if you need to pivot?
Well, there she goes with that pivot word again. Look, y'all, I've got this cool podcast equipment here, and I have these big buttons that I can connect to a sound. Like I can upload an MP3
Pivot
to it, so that when I press the button, it'll be Ross from Friends saying pivot.
Okay, I didn't know
And
this.
I'm totally loading that up because Kim loves to say pivot, and every time she does it, I'm going to hit that button. But anyway,
Wait, no,
Oh.
pause.
okay.
Because I know my girl Caroline listens to these. And she's working with John to create the reels and the TikToks.
Oh, he can put the sounds in there.
And so I know that Caroline now knows you have these magic buttons over here, and she's going to be coming up with what each of those buttons needs to be.
Okay.
And that's going to be fun.
I'm glad we're staying on track.
You started it. Can we please pivot back to...
Okay, let's pivot. So you got to measure this stuff. And look, you measure everything that you do in a different way. So I can't get into a how-to on how to measure it. But you have to measure it. Like, if you don't measure it, you can't grow it. So, if you're running Google ads, then you need to have tracking in place. It's going to be phone call tracking, form field tracking, all that kind of stuff. If you're, doing Facebook posts, then you've got your, Facebook analytics or insights, I should say, to be able to go look at. Every single thing that you do is going to have a different way of tracking it. But you have to track it, measure it. Because if you don't know if it's working and you just keep doing it, then you might be spending money that you don't need to spend.
Yep. So listen, y'all, we hope that you got some good information from here. I would love for you to email us at podcast@shopmarketingpros.com. And I want to know, when are you doing? Hey, if this caused you to say, all right, I'm taking a planning retreat, I want you to tell me where you're going. Not because I'm going to join you, but unless you're going to like British Virgin Islands, or would you say Bora Bora? Maybe so. So let us know what you took away from this. If you have questions, if you have future topics you would like for us, send us that email. Follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, YouTube, wherever you like to play in the world of social media. Visit us at shopmarketingpros.com. You can add /book to that. You can learn all about Brian's book, The Ultimate Guide to Auto Repair Shop Marketing. And then finally, please join us in our private Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and do a search for Auto Repair Marketing Mastermind. You'll find our group there. Click join, and you can join the conversation about marketing your auto repair shop with other repair shop owners, teachers, trainers, coaches in the industry, and all of that. And maybe you'll win our monthly pizza for your shop.
All right, y'all. Well, thanks again for listening to the Auto Repair Marketing Podcast on Aftermarket Radio Network. There's some other great shows on the network, and you can listen to them at aftermarketradionetwork.com or on your favorite podcast listening apps like Spotify, Apple Podcast, or Google Podcast. Tune in for another episode next week, and until then, go fill those bays.